Good morning, Clint. So a little side-by-side comparison of the two boards. That there is the up board. I'll show you the back of it in a second. Okay, so that's the back of it. It's a far bulkier board in terms of its build size, and its general size. It's a faster processor. However, that comes with some caveats I'll get into a little bit later. So the RPI, which as you know is a sleeker board, there it is there, doesn't have all the millions of functions that the upboard has. The screens are the same physical size at 7-inch, but this one is a higher resolution. The upboard screen is a significantly higher resolution than the RPI screen. Alright, so the RPI, there's the Windows IoT core, which I'll boot up for you in a second. Alright, this one has 64 gigs of hard drive, if you want to call it that, on it, but it's built into it. You cannot swap it out the way that you can with the RPI. Alright, so in terms of development, I use remote desktop to speak with this. Its touchscreen is fully functional. It's an entire Windows machine, right? But it's not easy to work on such a small screen. So for that one, I'm using upboard. I'm using Windows remote desktop to speak to it, and it's nice and snappy. Okay, so let's just run the little application. That's the one and only application I've ever written for it, and as of this point, it's now become a paperweight for me because the API is super difficult to work with. It's mostly missing a lot of functionality. The developers and the forum support are very poor. It just makes it too hard to work with the board when the people that are making it don't back it up properly. So, yep, I wrote Blinky, and then that's the end of the upboard as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to turn it into a media player for the kids and call it a life experience in bad purchases. Alright, so in answer to your questions from earlier, there's the RPI, running RPI. I'm running Raspbian, my apologies. I'm just going to close that down. Alright, and it has VNC built right into it. So all you have to do to turn on the VNC is to go to your preferences, settings, Raspberry Pi configuration, and in your interfaces, turn on VNC, which is there. Alright, so you just enable VNC and you're done. You need your IP address, and you need VNC viewer. So IP address is 123 this morning. It's still 123 there. And the default passwords for the Raspberry Pi. And you're in. Alright, so that's fairly simple to run and to work with. I've been playing around with a bit of Python in here, but to be honest, I'm not particularly keen on Linux or Python. It's for nerds. It's not for people that want to produce professional applications. Alright, so little camera application over there is doing its thing. And also the onboard camera runs through the GPUs, which is why you're not seeing it on the remote desktop screen on my computer, but you are seeing it there. Alright, anyway, so that's that. I'm going to boot it up into its Windows IoT mode, in which I am using it quite significantly. All my development has gone back to Windows IoT. Let's shut that down. Okay, that's something else you cannot do with the upboard either. You cannot shut it down. While it's powered, it will always turn back on. Alright, which makes for fairly difficult power management. To shut it down, you'd have to run a relay from one of the pins, assuming you can actually access the pin. and you'd have to set the relay to kill the power, which, yeah, anyway. Enough said on that. I don't want to badmouth it too much, but it's a very, very undeveloped board. Okay, so we have you plugged in, and let's power you up. Alright, so that's going to boot into Windows IoT now. I'll give it a second to boot, and then I'll show you how you access that. Now the Raspberry Pi 3, which I have here running Windows IoT, and the core changed from standard to the turbo core, is more than ample. Alright, powered it down. Okay, it's going to do some disk checking. My apologies. It's checking a drive, and then it'll boot up. Hang on one tick. That's because I killed power on it the last time I was around by flipping it over by mistake. Okay, sorry, literally a second after I paused it, it booted back up. So that's the default application on the Windows IoT that boots up. It gives you some functionality to accessing settings on your system if you need to, but it's just a loading screen. Think of IoT as a severely cut back version of Windows. Right, and it's designed from the ground up to be accessed by remote. So you download the dashboard, which is still going on my screen here. Click the dashboard. Oh, sorry, and that's the other thing I got to mention. The upboard has no onboard Bluetooth, has no onboard Wi-Fi. So they give you extra USB ports, but you have to use them because the functionality you need isn't actually built onto the board. All up, not a great purchase. It'll teach me to read a little more before I click buy now. Alright, so in the dashboard you've got Win10 RPI. It's giving you IP address, everything you need over there. Just right click and you have some functionality directly from here. You would also set up a new device from here. You put the SD card in your computer, pick what your device is, and go set up the OS. And it all happens from here. Alright. Once you've set it up, your device shows up in here. I'm going to open it in the device portal, which opens a web page directly to the machine. As you can tell, it's nice and snappy, there's no issues. You can change your device settings from the first screen, see which apps are installed, and in my case my app is in there. The current default app that it boots to is the IoT default app. If you wanted to boot to your app, you'd put it in there, right? You have File Explorer to access your stuff, performance reports, CPU usage, everything else you need. Live debugging of your system, which devices are currently running, and this is where I change my driver. Change it from the inbox driver to directory memory map driver, and then it's running as fast as the app running on the app anyhow. So make connections to Bluetooth devices from here. Have a look at your available networks, connect to whatever you want to do, run your Windows update, and then the only thing you need to change once you come in here is the Windows IoT remote server. Turn it on. All right. So once you've turned that on, you can download the Windows IoT remote app, which is this little fella down here. Alright, which is this little fella there. Go look for my device. Okay, and connect. And now you're looking at a remote desktop, the same desktop you're seeing there. You'll see my mouse running over it now. So in terms of functionality, ease of programming, the fact that you're working in Windows, which is understandable, I can definitely recommend IoT on the RPI. All right, and there are millions and millions and millions of code examples. I have, where is my 360 cam, IoT program examples? There we go. Squillions of them. You want to set up a weather station, RGB LEDs, using OpenCV on it, Hello World, Blinkies, all of the stuff doesn't exist for the upboard, alright, and coding for it is a fucking nightmare. Anyhow, moving along, my camera is currently plugged into my screen to do this video for you, but you could just remotely access your apps over here and go, I want to run my photo controller. Let me move that over there. Photo controller, and start. Okay, and let's kill that and start it again. Okay, and the reason you're not actually seeing a camera in there is because my camera is plugged into your machine at the moment. Now, every now and then this remote, no, they're running out. Alright, so sometimes it can take a minute to load if you're using Wi-Fi to connect instead of a wired network cable. Alright, but there you have it. Okay, so in terms of usage, in terms of programming friendliness, 100% for sure, go with the RPI running Windows IoT. It's a third of the price of the upboard. Everything works. There's millions of examples. There isn't at this point any real reason I can recommend the upboard to anybody, other than if you have too much money and you feel like throwing some of it away. All right, mate. Cheers.